Hey Laura, thanks for getting this in. It looks very complete. You've got your 40 images and then your 4 finals. And it looks here, from based on what you said in your write-up, that these are done with reflective and these are done with incident. Because you said that the incident was giving you brighter exposure readings than reflective. And that's curious because it's not what we would expect to see. We would actually expect reflective to be much darker. But I have two possible explanations for why this was happening. These, like I said, I believe are your reflective images done with reflective mode metering. And I suspect that what was going on here is you were pointing your camera at somewhere around here, you know, in the middle of the frame in most cases. Either this green foliage, probably this green foliage, and with all of this atmospheric perspective going on, and of course atmospheric perspective, you remember, is, hopefully remember from one of your classes here, is that interference, that particulate interference that we get that helps us understand that things that are far away because they start to become bluish and purplish in color because of all the particulate in the atmosphere between us and the subject. And that makes this have a very light local value, which will give you readings that will underexpose your image, because of course in reflective mode your meter is giving you readings that will yield a medium gray out of whatever it is that you are pointing it at. And that's what we're seeing here in these images. We're seeing a medium gray. This foliage is being exposed so that it comes out a medium gray, which is going to give you, which requires darker exposure settings. And then in this case, yeah, if these are the incident ones, these are really overexposed. And I wonder why. I really do. I don't, if you're using your light meter correctly, and that means that, you've got the Lumisphere on and up. It's on and up. I think you're using the Sekonic. I think I remember that correctly. So your Lumisphere is on and up. You've got it set to incident mode, and then you're standing in the quality of light, the same quality of light as your subject matter. So you should be, it looks like it's kind of a hazy, overcast day, but based on both sets of images, it doesn't seem like it's really, really dark out. It's just got a lot of this light being bounced around over the place. So, if you have your meter in the scene, pointing back at your camera with the Lumisphere up, you should have gotten lower exposure, like less exposure value. It should have given you readings that would have given you less exposure value. So I'm wondering if maybe the ISO was set differently on your meter than it was on your camera. That's one possibility. Another possibility is that you are actually metering in an area of shade, like the shady side of these beautiful Tennessee hills, or underneath a tree or near a tree. Like, it's just possible. Or even maybe the clouds were heavier and darker where you were metering, whereas maybe they were lighter and there was more light falling across the way. So I think that either what was going on is your ISO was set inaccurately. They didn't, the ISO of your camera and your meter was not the same, which is probably less likely. What's more likely is that the light quality that you were standing in was much different than the light quality of what you were shooting that is so far away. And also remember, the further away our subject gets, in this kind of case, in the landscape, the more brightly illuminated it is, because there's just more light falling between us and our subject, and all that light's going to get recorded in the image. So when you're shooting things that are far away with incident mode, it is possible that you'll have that you'll overexpose, because there's not, like, really, I don't know how to describe it any differently, there's not as many layers of light right here where you're metering as there are between you. There's just so much light bouncing around and being diffused and scattered through the clouds between you and your subject matter. That might also result in your overexposures. Anyways, enough about that. So here's your finals. The PDF looks pretty good. I'm just going through and making sure everybody gives me a PDF that has a high enough resolution for me to blow it up really big on my monitor before I start making my movie. I shrink it back down so that I can actually upload my movie, but when I look at them full screen. These look great. I'd say the composition is pretty interesting. You would benefit from a polarizing filter if you don't have one already. And honestly, what I would do, if you're going to be shooting in your beautiful state of Tennessee like this, shooting landscapes that are kind of far away with all of this humidity in the air and the atmosphere, I would double up a polarizer and a UV filter to try and get rid of a lot of this scattered light. And then that means that you're going to have to use your exposure compensation mechanism to make up for the light that the UV and the polarizer filters are pulling away from the scene. I think that these images would benefit a lot from that, especially something like this. You'll get a lot more clarity in your subject matter that's far away because the polarizer alone will clear out a lot of this atmospheric perspective disturbance, and the UV filter will pull out much of the rest of it. Yeah, but these are pretty interesting. I love Tennessee. I really do. I used to live in Cleveland, and that was one of my favorite things to do when I had enough time off, was to drive down to Tennessee and just go hiking in the hills. It looks pretty good. Your submission is good. Thank you for your write-up. It was to the point and effective. And yeah, and I wasn't there with you, but I would be curious of how you were metering an incident, because like I said, I wouldn't expect these to be so overexposed like they are. But that's about what I have to say about that. Okay, thank you, Laura.